the station where our veterans' voices are heard, MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome to Freedom Chat, where real Americans speak their minds. And no topic is off limits. No scripts, no judgment, just honest conversation, raw, unfiltered, and free. If you're ready to challenge the narrative and celebrate true freedom, you're in the right place. This is Freedom Chat.
Good morning, everybody. All right, so
Good morning.
right off the bat, we were going to talk about slavery, and I'm still wanting to talk about slavery, but some other things happened over the week that I want to talk about, and I know Mom wants to talk about the corruption and the fraud that is happening right here in our state. I want to hit that, but I want to hit this first. We all remember what happened in 2020 during the election, right? Everybody remembers. And we'll go ahead and we'll just start this right off the bat. What basically happened, for those of you who are ignorant, or those of you who refuse to admit that anything that happened in 2020 was dirty. If you guys remember, Dennis, Mom, do you remember what happened right around midnight in the following states? Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, Arizona, and I think that was it, right?
Pennsylvania?
I said Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So in those states, they literally stopped counting ballots at midnight in those states. And I asked this once before. Had anybody in their entire lifetimes ever seen a national election where the votes stopped at midnight and then reconvened around 4 o'clock in the morning? And this was every state that I just mentioned. They all did it. And if I'm not mistaken, Dennis and I talked about this. Never remember it. Mom, you're older than we are. Do you ever remember a federal election where the votes, the counting of the votes, stopped and then started up again?
Back then, they were all paper ballots. Took them longer to count them.
Did they ever
But
stop
they didn't
voting?
stop and start. They just
Did they ever?
waited until they were done.
That's what I'm asking you. I don't care about whether they were paper votes or electronic votes. Were the ballots stopped and then started up again?
And they were very specific about you either got to the mailbox on time that night or they did not count. And there would be long lines of cars driving up to the mailbox to put them in.
So what I am asking is, again, when they started counting the votes, did they stop counting and then start up again?
Not that anybody knew, that's for sure.
So the answer is no. In this nation's history, there was never a time when the votes were stopped, the counting of the votes were stopped, and then started back up again.
Well, there was other ways to do the fraud, but that was not one of them.
The point is that in these 5 states, which these states, if people want to remember this, these were the states that they're the states that won the election for Biden. Those 5 states were these states. So imagine my surprise when the following comes across my Instagram. 5 years too late, the admission by the state of Georgia illegally certified 315,000 ballots in the 2020 election, handing Joe Biden the win of that state by just 11,779 votes. Okay, it's not, and the guy who made this comment, this is not a small detail. This is a historical breach of democratic accountability. The fact that President Trump eventually won an election does not erase the damage that was done. It also does not erase the fact that he was vilified, canceled, relentlessly prosecuted for stating what has now been acknowledged as true all along. If this passes without consequence, it will eventually be looked at as the moment when inaction, not the wrongdoing itself, became the defining failure of democracy. Fulton County admits that they violated the rules in 2020 when they certified 315,000 early votes that lacked poll workers' signatures. So, Rudy Giuliani, we all know who he is, right? We know who Rudy Giuliani is. He has been basically ruined financially, and he was disbarred. He was disbarred for the claims that this election was fraudulent. What?
His health is that. He's had health problems too from all this mess.
So let's kind of talk about this a little bit. It wasn't just Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump that were ruined. They went after anybody who made claims of election fraud.
Tucker lost his job.
Tucker lost his job. I think the thing that I'm getting at here is the people on the left want to scream election integrity all they want, but we already know for a fact now that they were participating in election fraud. So we can now say definitively the election was stolen, because I'm telling you right now, if it was dirty in Georgia, which is a predominantly red state, you know dang good and well that it was dirty in the other states that I mentioned.
Look at our own Tina Peters.
Well, of course.
In Colorado. I mean, she blew the whistle on him, but then they projected it onto her, saying that she was the one cheating.
She proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was fraudulent activity happening in the Colorado elections. Well, look at who's in power. Mom, history lesson. Who was it that said it isn't the votes that matter? It isn't who votes that matters. It's who counts the votes that matter.
I don't remember who said that.
That would be Joseph Stalin.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Because if you're the one that is counting the votes, hey, look at what's going on. Look at what happened in Venezuela.
Oh, yeah.
There's a young lady who is still in hiding because of the criminal activities of that regime.
Who should be in power.
She should be governing. She should be the one that is the president of that nation.
Yep.
But once again, who's counting the votes? It's a miracle that Trump won 2024. I don't think people today even appreciate that. Now, Mom, I'm going to look up a couple of things. While I'm doing that, go ahead and talk about the fraud and the corruption going on in our state.
Dennis, did you happen to read that article on Make Colorado Red post?
Which article?
The one where the lady is laying out the fraud in the HUD. I don't remember the number of people that are dead that are getting housing. Yeah. I'm not quite sure how that works. You're dead, but you still have a house.
Right.
Through HUD.
Yeah, same with voting. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, they just scratched the surface, as far as I can tell,
Right.
on the fraudulent behavior in the Medicare and the Medicaid,
Yeah.
and most of it, which was kind of buried in the article, kind of down at the end. The worst was, guess where? The city of Denver.
Yeah.
Guess where that fraudulent money is going, in my personal opinion?
Illegal aliens, right?
That's where I'd say it's going.
Well,
Somebody is using it, and I don't think a dead person eats a lot.
I don't know. I was with a bunch of dead people last weekend, and I don't recognize. I didn't hear any of them talking about being hungry.
It's an article worth looking up on Facebook.
All right, so in the tradition that I have of calling people out, one of my daughter's really good friends. Her mom is she suffers from Trump derangement syndrome pretty bad. She is a definite lefty. And she had been sending me this series of videos, and the videos were all pretty horrible. They're typical anti-Trump crap. Let me see here. This idiot's video. Trump creates more illegal immigrants than he deports. Let me see. That's one. Here's another one that says Trump wants seniors to suffer. So I said, stop. This is bullshit. Sorry, I did say a bad word. I tried real hard not to, but I had to call it. And then she said, this is her name is Hyla. And she said, I know, I can get sources, but here's but one. And it was a leftist resource that she's pulling from. And she says, the Trump administration plans deep cuts to Social Security, disability, particularly to older workers, center on budget and policy priorities. So there was that. My response to this person was, says the person who thinks Rachel Maddow is legit. I invited you on my podcast. You want to debate, do it for real. I have multiple unbiased sources that I use. Like I said, either come on the podcast or stop sending me this leftist crap. This is the problem that I've got with people like Hyla Clemens. This is also the problem, as you know, this is also my issue with my issue with people like Lucas. You notice that she hasn't come on. I sent her the link, so you know she hasn't come on. I don't get the unwillingness to come on and have a debate.
And that guy that I mentioned to you obviously didn't bother either.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I actually forgot to send him the link. But if you want, I could send him the link right now. I would be perfectly happy.
I don't know the guy, but yeah, I just thought it would be interesting if he got on.
Yeah, and Mom, why don't you kind of give the Reader's Digest version of that conversation?
It's been several days ago. Do you think my mind remembers that?
Sure.
Just a discussion that something, let's see, it was on We the People, and the difference between that and a majority rule.
Yeah, you were talking about the difference between a constitutional republic versus a straight out democracy, and how quickly democracy can fall into socialism and communism.
What I was putting out was perhaps one of the ways that you could deal with Colorado having, because this was a Colorado site, with having a supermajority in the legislature, which we have, is if we had some sort of a modified electoral college system. And
I've mentioned
what
that.
started several different comments from several different guys, one of which called me honey. Wasn't that nice of him?
Yeah. So you're not the only one that is talking about that. There's a couple of people who have talked about applying a electoral college style election. Most likely, now look, I'll be honest, it would have to be for the governor and the lieutenant governor. It would be really hard to do that for legislature, because you're talking about legislators and their individual districts. But if you're wanting to balance things, what we need is someone on the top who is not a Democrat, because there's no balance in this. And I want to talk about that a little bit. My buddy Lance, who's my bandmate, and I have had this conversation, and he has brought up, like, when the Republicans gained control of the House, and they basically put a stop to, as big of a stop as they could put to what Biden was getting away with for 2 years. And I'll never forget it, because we were at rehearsal, and he said, having a majority gives the majority a chance to abuse its power. And I said, yeah, kind of like the state of Colorado. Being a supermajority in the state of Colorado on the Democrat side, they're able to cram through anything they want. He goes, well, I was talking about the Republicans. I go, yeah, you always want to talk about the side that is doing things you don't agree with or stopping things that you don't agree with. This is the hypocrisy of the left. I don't like it in any way, shape, or form. I don't like parties. We've already discussed my detest for both of the parties. I don't like the Republicans. I like them a little more than I do Democrats, because they seem to be using their brain a lot more. And Dennis and I have talked with this. I know you guys. I know both of you are Republican. You're both definitely conservative. I try real hard not to say that I'm conservative, but I have to, without being a hypocrite, admit that most of my values as I've gotten older are more conservative by nature. But I also believe that our founders, while they may have written the most liberal document in government history, which is our Constitution, they were more conservative by nature too, because their values on a day-to-day basis were more in line with a conservative value, which is less government overreach, and more freedoms and liberties for our country. So I think that, the hypocrisy of the left sitting there saying, well, when there's a majority, they just have a chance to abuse everything. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, you guys do a really good job of gaslighting the living crap out of everybody, which is not good.
Well, I'm still getting, that's been probably almost a week, and I'm still getting comments on that.
And you will. You are going to get comments on that thread, because...
And most of them are positive.
Right.
With a few not, but,
But here's the thing. The comments are because people are looking, and they're watching our system of government erode, and we can talk about the reasons why it's eroding. I know that I mentioned, and I sent you guys a message about what's going on in Europe, and France, and in Australia. We don't. I am legitimately concerned right now about these other countries and what's happening in these other countries. it's really, really scary that you've got places like France and Germany that are caving to radical Islam and threats of violence and threats of terrorism. That's why they're backing down. Well, I have news for you. Pull that crap in this country right now.
Well,
Threaten to cancel Christmas and New Year's Eve in this country and find out just how quick the FBI is so far up your backside that you're looking at their badges when you wipe your butt.
there's pockets where it would work here, but there's mostly would not.
Okay, here's the thing, Mom. It wouldn't work in any pockets here because the federal government and Trump's federal government would send in the National Guard. So no, it wouldn't work in any pockets in this country. Here's the thing. It only works when people allow it to work. When you turn a blind eye to this garbage, it just empowers them. And we can look at this historically. The Nazis did not have a majority until they were the only party in the country. And their violence and the way they acted and the way they behaved, especially towards the Jews, was basically you just turned a blind eye to it because there's no way they'd go that far off the deep end, would they? Well, they would, and they did. And if we continue to allow Islamic radicalism to increasingly gain a foothold, and it starts so subtly. I mean, honestly, Ilhan Omar and Rashid Tlaib are a perfect example of this because they are the fox in the henhouse. Both of them represent the fox in the henhouse.
Right. An example of a place that has caved is the Somalians in Dearborn, Michigan,
No,
because they take over the whole streets
they're
to
not,
pray,
Mom.
and they don't want the bells ringing.
Mom, they're not Somalians in Dearborn, Michigan. They're just Islamic immigrants. It's not Somalia. Somalians that's Minnesota. But look at what they did in Minnesota. They came into Minnesota, and because you had a person like Tim Walz, who I think is as corrupt as the day is long, you can't keep turning a blind eye to blatant corruption and blatant fraud without some semblance of a consequence going on. But hey, that's okay, because what we know is Donald Trump is bad. Donald Trump is a racist. Donald Trump is this. Donald Trump is that. So yeah, I mean, we're good because they managed to gaslight and convince at least a portion of the people that are asleep at the wheel still about how bad he is, when the reality is we've watched this going on now. How many times do we have to see that side of the fence get away with being corrupt before we put an end to it? How long does it take? And I know Dennis can't talk very much because his throat is all jacked up. But I would like to ask, how long does it take?
Unfortunately, sometimes it takes until it's too late.
That's what I was going to say.
I had a random thought about the difference between this country and the countries that are caving in, like France and Germany
And Australia.
and Britain even, and Australia. And a lot of it is cultural. This country, and I'm talking as older Americans, the Americans that have been here, we were, and the ones who settled this country, learned that we liked our liberty and we liked not being told what to do. and we want to make our own decisions. Whereas if you look at the culture in all those other countries, they never got past the idea that the king or the prime minister or whoever is title or head is the one that you have to listen to and do what he says no matter what.
It's
a cultural thing.
It's the difference between authoritarianism, and keep in mind, the Magna Carta was the foundation of which our Constitution was written. So the Magna Carta, which talked about the freedoms and the liberties and the ability to speak your mind without recourse. Now, this is look, here's the issue at hand, though. We are making the exact same mistake that those nations made because we have a bunch of people who believe wholeheartedly that being virtuous is the way society is supposed to be. Here's a news flash for those people. Being virtuous does not mean being a doormat for a bunch of people who have no interest in assimilating with our way of life. Now, I will say this. The people that I work with are from Ethiopia. And I haven't done the research to know whether or not they are a Muslim-based nation or not. I just know that they are Ethiopian. And it doesn't surprise me because the people that lived across the street from me were also from Ethiopia. Here's a comment that came from Red Pill Truth. It was shared on X. Anyone seeing all the Muslim leaders in the world condemning attacks on Christians and Jews worldwide? Me neither. All I see is leaders in the Western world increasing tyranny on any citizen who raises a single word about Muslim violence. Citizens of the West protest or speak out, and they are either stopped or they go to jail. This is happening mostly in Germany, France, and England.
And Australia.
I think you're going to see Australia do a complete 180 here real soon. And like Dennis and I and you have all said, I think you're going to see civil war break out in England, definitely. And I think it's coming. I don't think there's any way to stop it. I think that the minority there is about to find out what happens when you enrage the majority. Muslims go to the street, yell and scream about Muhammad or commit violence, and that's perfectly fine. This is a comment that come from them, and I do want to piggyback on it. What we've seen in the recent weeks is an increasing emboldenedness by a very small group of people. The fact that they're being allowed to get away with it because we don't have government people outside of Donald Trump and his immediate cabinet who have the stones to stand up and say, this is unacceptable. Here's a case in point. How many times have we all seen videos, and the videos have been shared, and it's really easy to pull the videos of things that both Rashid Tlaib and Ilhan Omar have said that are blatantly not loyal to this country. I can count at least 5.
Pretty much on the daily, I think.
Right. And then they get to go on CNN, and because the people on CNN don't know how to push back on them, they can just spew their garbage, and honestly, we're just expected to eat it. Well, I'm not eating it. I played Christmas music at our end of year thing at work, and I played 4 or 5 songs, and I kept them religious neutral. Let's just call it that. The reason that I did that is because if any one of these people were to ask me how I felt about this stuff, I would be very happy to tell them how I felt about this stuff. Be very happy to tell them that Christ is Lord and he is the Savior and Muhammad is a false prophet. However, when you are at work and you want to keep your paycheck, sometimes you just got to read the room and follow the room. Now, if they ask a question, I will answer it, and I will answer it honestly, and I'll answer it direct. However, they require capitulation. That entire world requires total compliance.
Right.
And that's a problem if you are a liberty-seeking individual. If you love freedom and you love liberty, you should probably be inspired by the bottom flag on my flagpole. Dennis, on Facebook, I posted it. Just got a brand new flag up this morning. Big red and white stripes, bold as brass, man.
I saw that. I liked it. I put a like on it.
Sons of Liberty, brother.
It's cool.
Sons of Liberty, right?
Yep, good pictures.
So, and here's the history lesson behind that flag. That flag predated our revolution. That flag was flown outside of places that were fighting tyranny before we actually declared our independence. So I'm trying really, really hard to inspire people with my flags, because my flags are my symbolism, that in this country, we can't allow that to happen. I mean, I'm sorry, but Teddy Roosevelt said it best. If you come to this country, you must assimilate with this country. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And the fact that we've elected people who have no interest in assimilating with the pre-existing culture is a problem.
And I'm not. They've been brought up several times. It's just that they can't get enough people to censor them to get them out of Congress,
or at least punish them appropriately. And look, when Omar made the comments that she made after Charlie Kirk, there were at least 5 or 6 Republicans that voted against censorship. But she was wrong in her statements. She was obviously cherry-picking statements that Charlie Kirk had made without actually focusing on the content. And when you do that, you need to be called to the carpet. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. You need to get called to the carpet when you make statements that are that over the top, insensitive to what's going on. Once again, your inability to read the room is astounding to me. And their inability. I'm talking about Republicans that were voted because we're tired of seeing it. You can't read the room. Maybe you need to leave the room. That goes for any one of them. It doesn't matter who it is. Like I said, I think that the reason Marjorie Taylor Greene is leaving, and Dennis will talk about this one too, because we need to say this. Dan Bongino is walking away. And the 2 reasons that he listed as the reasons why he's walking away is because he wants to get back into his podcast and he wants to start talking about the things that he wants to talk about, because he believes, like this show, he believes it's important. He also said DC can't be fixed. And
right.
My response to Dennis was, as of right now, he's right.
Mm-hmm.
But as of right now, you've got people that are trying to fix it. And hey, the reason Donald Trump is getting pushback is because he's breaking DC. He is right now breaking DC's back. And here's the thing. What did we think was going to happen, Mom? Did we think that the mechanism, or as Michael Brown likes to call it, the cabal, did we think the cabal was simply going to tuck its tail and run?
No, I never figured that, because the cabal is still hanging out there. I mean, after all, they propped up a dead guy.
Well, yeah,
for president.
They propped up a dude who was asleep and was wanting ice cream every day for 4 years. I actually asked this, and I'll ask you guys. Outside of the speeches that he came out and they juiced him up with with uppers for. Does anybody remember any legitimate press conference the man did in 4 years as president of the United States? Because I don't remember a single press conference that wasn't lined up and set up for him. And hell, he still managed to screw that up.
I mean, after all, he did kill Medicare. He said he did.
Of course he did. I mean, look, I don't, not to sound too crass, but, we didn't expect that side of the fence to lift their skirt up for us. We're going to have to take it. We're going to have to take this country back. It's going to have to be in the ballot box. And God help us if it doesn't. If it requires something other than doing it the civilized way. And look, I hate saying this because I really don't like having to say it. I don't have a problem with the people that are Islamic that just want to live their lives, because there are many of them that really do just want to live their lives. And there are many of them that really do appreciate the liberties and the freedoms that this nation has afforded them. That said, they're the ones that need to be vocal about the radicalism in their own world. Am I wrong?
Well, unfortunately, you're right. It's just that that's a case of where when you've been raised to, and your ancestors all way back, to follow the leader no matter what, that's what happens.
Right. And the shooter at Brown University, for some odd reason, I guess maybe it's me, but we can't figure out anything about that dude, can we?
That whole thing is, if it smells like rot and it looks like rot and it feels like rot, it's probably rot. That whole thing doesn't sound legitimate to me.
It's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
It just doesn't feel right.
A lady, a woman named Amy Meck. Mom, I'll let you finish, and then I'm going to read this one because.
No, that's okay. I'm done.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So Amy Meck posted this, and she posted this 3 days ago. Rumors are swirling that the Brown University attacker may come from an Islamic background, and if that is true, America would be crossing the line into Europe. That would mean we are following the exact same script that destroyed Europe step by step, lie by lie. First, the authorities and media would do everything possible to conceal the attacker's identity, which this isn't the first time they've done that. Then, once it became impossible to conceal that the perpetrator is Muslim or a migrant, the narrative would shift immediately to mental illness or worse, an attempt to justify the attack by blaming the host nation for making him angry. Next would come full whitewashing operation. Islam would be scrubbed from the motive, the ideology erased, and the government would issue hollow condemnations carefully crafted to avoid naming the doctrine that actually inspired the violence. Islam would never be mentioned, the motive would never be confronted, the truth would be deliberately buried. And when the public tried to look deeper, they would find something even more disturbing. Information disappearing, profiles altered, histories quietly wiped from the internet as if the facts themselves were the real threat. This is exactly what happened in France, Germany, UK, and Sweden. These are dark times, and I'm stunned we could be watching this pattern repeat itself while President Trump is in office. This is not what I voted for. I have spent so many years warning America not to follow Europe's path, documenting the patterns, exposing the cover-ups, sounding the alarm at every stage. Yet here we are. If this continues, it won't look like ignorance. It will look like a suicide mission. So she is a person who has literally been raising the bell and the alarm for years. But we see the pattern repeating itself. The fortunate thing is we are still at a place where we can reverse that, kind of like putting diabetes in remission. But I think honestly that we need to get a heavier hand needs to be applied. This crap that we're seeing in New York and Minnesota of en masse stopping of traffic so that they can have their 1 in 5 prayers a day. Do we stop and preach on the streets, or do we do that? Now, I want to preface this. There are street preachers out there, but they are very small and they are very singular, and many of them get ridiculed. They just keep preaching the gospel, but they do not en masse do any of the crap that we watch these people do in the middle of the streets. So at some point we have to say this is not a legal, what's the word I'm looking for? This is not a legal gathering.
Or protest or anything like that.
You have places where you are supposed to congregate and hold your prayers and do your time, your thing. And in the middle of the street is not one of them places.
Yeah, they're called mosques.
Is that what they're called?
I think so. And they're building an awful lot of them, so they should have plenty of room.
If you're Jewish, isn't it called a synagogue, right?
Synagogue,
You
yeah.
can see
That's
Jews
right.
walking through the streets and doing, or do they congregate in the synagogues?
They go into the synagogue, I believe.
And for the most part, people that are of the Christian faith go to these places where, what are they called? They're called churches, right?
All right. I'll take church for 500, Alex.
A fun fact, the mosque back in one of the big cities that they say is so old is built on top of a synagogue.
Yeah.
Geez, amazing which one was first. The
It
chicken
is
or the
amazing
egg.
which one was first. Well, I mean, let's not talk about what Muslims have done to every society that they have integrated with. Wait, they don't integrate. Let's not forget that they are not integrators.
You know, I was kind of hoping to see some video footage of Uncle Ted Nugent jamming some of his stuff at 2 a.m. for the Muslim communities.
Do you guys want to hear what John Quincy Adams had to say about Islam? Because
Yeah.
I've got the quote right here.
Definitely.
Go ahead.
All right. This is John Quincy Adams, folks. This is not Mark Edward Stallings. This is the, 4th or 5th president of the United States.
Right.
Quincy was 5th?
I'd have to count it up.
Dennis, look that up. Find out. Tell me so we know who we're talking about. John
He's
Quincy,
the son of the second president.
the son of number 2.
6th U.S. president.
6th. Hey, I was only one off. Holy
Number
crap.
6.
Maybe I need to go back to school and learn our presidents again.
I think I do.
This is what John Quincy Adams had to say about Islam. In the 7th century of the Christian era, a wandering Arab of the lineage of Hagar, the Egyptian, combining the powers of transcendent genius with the preternatural energy of a fanatic and the fraudulent spirit of an impostor, proclaimed himself as a messenger from heaven and spread desolation and delusion over an extensive portion of the earth. Adopting from the sublime conception of the Mosaic law the doctrine of one omnipotent God, he connected indissolubly with it the audacious falsehood that he was himself his prophet and apostle. Adopting from new revelation of Jesus the faith and hope of immortal life and of future retribution, he humbled it to the dust by adapting all the rewards and sanctions of his religion to the gratification of the sexual passion. He poisoned the sources of human felicity at the fountain by degrading the condition of the female sex and the allowance of polygamy, and he declared undistinguishing and exterminating war as a part of his religion against all the rest of mankind. The essence of his doctrine was violence and lust, to exalt the brutal over the spiritual part of human nature. Well, he's talking about Muhammad, number one. And how accurate would you say he is in this comment?
From what I know of history, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I would.
Muhammad was nothing more than a thief and a raider before he decided to become something else.
That is correct. Muhammad was, and this is going to upset people because we're supposed to respect all religion, but we're not talking about religion here. We're talking about a man. We're not talking about Jesus Christ who rose from the dead. We're talking about a man. We're talking about a man who was a criminal, who was also a really talented opportunist. That's what we're talking about here.
And more of an ideology than a religion.
Oh, we are, right. And it is more of an ideology, a political ideology.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've said, it's a political ideology wrapped around spiritualism of some sort.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's the sad part. If we keep turning a blind eye towards the violent side of this religion, which is more prevalent than people are willing to admit, then we're going to end up like Europe. And look, I follow this person. You guys should look this person up. Her name is, what are you? What is, Gigi Marie Goldie Gamari. She is a...
Oh, the Iranian.
She's
an Iranian. Yeah.
You've heard of her, right?
Oh, yeah. I follow her. Yep.
Yeah, she's a human rights activist. She's Iranian.
Yep.
And she's incredible. I mean, seriously, she is phenomenal. She's really, really smart, and she's also got a death sentence on her head because she's openly spoken out against Islam and the fact that Islam is such a backwards society. People that study it and practice it are so backwards.
Oh, they're 200 or 300 years behind still.
Yeah. I mean, they're still conducting policies that are just obscene, and they are obscene. Don't get it twisted, folks. There's, I don't know, maybe it's me, but there's, I have yet to see that religion en masse have any redeeming quality. They don't build anything.
Well, any type of religion or political ideology or whatever you want to call it that says it's okay for you to marry and get pregnant a 9-year-old is not okay.
No,
that's
it's
not okay.
And that's in their book.
Yeah.
That's in their book. Imams, for those of you who don't know what an imam is a spiritual leader. Think preacher, right?
Yeah, preacher.
They come right out and say that the Quran gives them permission, gives men, keep that in mind. They're, we talk about misogyny and we talk about sexism all day long, and we accuse a certain president of being misogynistic and sexist, but we turn a blind eye to an entire religion that is, holy crap, misogynistic and sexist.
Yep.
Mom, why are you not wearing your hijab?
Well, some days I'd like to wear something that hid my face, but I'll wait till they start cutting on it. Until then, everybody has to put up with it. I would say something rude about it.
Point that I'm making here, Mom, you get my point. Is if we were Muslim, number one, you wouldn't even be allowed to do a podcast like this. If you were Muslim, Mom, you wouldn't even be allowed to participate.
Mm-hmm.
Which also blows my mind that people like Linda Sarsour and Talib and Omar and that they even run for public office. I mean,
Right.
I think that's called the people behind the scenes figured out that this makes their radical Islam religion look better if they have these figureheads in front of them, like those three who spout everything that they're told to spout and don't do a damn thing for their own women.
yeah, I mean that is really what it kind of boils down to, which leads me to say something to every Democrat woman that's out there. You can't scream that you want women's rights and turn a blind eye when women's rights are stepped on and squashed on a daily basis all over the Muslim world.
Oh yeah, and you can't be a feminist and be pro-trans too.
Oh, you cannot.
By the way, no,
you
it doesn't
absolutely
work that
cannot.
way.
Because if you're a feminist, you know what a woman is.
Right.
Because you're talking about feminist strength, right? You're talking
You're
about
fighting for female
women's
rights.
right? So
Actually, I think that's been totally corrupted also. Honestly, the feminist movement
say it's
that
not so.
started in the late 60s doesn't even resemble what these idiot women are.
Say it's not
Sorry,
so,
now.
Mom. You
Right.
mean that the feminist movement's been corrupted?
It's been hijacked.
Hijacked, corrupted, whatever you want to call it. Now, I was never a part of that, but I can tell you that the young women that were into that era,
Empowerment.
and burning their bras or whatever, they certainly did not ever think of anything like what these young women are spouting coming out of college.
Oh, amen to that. So we kind of touched on what happened in Australia. Instead of cracking down on radical Islam in Australia, you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to take more guns away. And, wouldn't you know it, Ilhan Omar, Rashid Tlaib, Chuck Schumer are all talking about, we want the Republicans to step up and be brave about the making guns, be more restrictions on guns. Well, I don't know about y'all, but this is my take on that. There's a certain phrase that I like to use: shall not be infringed.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
Mark, out of curiosity, did anybody that hero guy for Australia and that grabbed that guy with the gun and everything? So I hear he's doing. He's on the mend. He's doing good.
Yep.
Now he's a Middle Eastern guy.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious to know: is he Muslim or is he a Christian? Because if he's a Muslim, and that's fine, but obviously if he's a Muslim, then he's one of the good ones.
Right.
I think
And-
he is a Muslim, but I'm not positive.
I haven't heard, so I was just
Well-
curious if you guys heard anything. But he's
See,
if that's the kind of Muslim community that could assimilate to our culture.
Well, like I said, there's a guy that I followed. I discovered him on X, and he goes by the handle Imam of Peace, and he's another one of these guys who's got a death warrant against him because he speaks out openly against radical Islam.
Right.
And he basically says, here's the problem is radical Islam never caught up with the modern world. And because like Dennis mentioned, they're 700 years behind everything. So, you're trying to, Mom, you and I have talked about this. It's called trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. You better have a really big damn round hole. And even then, it's not compatible. The fundamentalist Islam does not have any compatibility with the Western modern world and the technologies. They will drive, and they're already doing their level best to drive England and Europe back into the dark ages. And that girl, she did a whole talk about the Crusades, and I listened to it, and I was like, holy crap. She literally, because the Crusades, the picture that is painted about the Crusades is that the Christians went to destroy the Muslims. Well, the reality is the Crusades the Crusades came about because radical militant Islam was invading Europe. So the Crusades were actually created to put a stop to the invasion of Europe by the Islamic world. And that's why, and yeah, it did center around taking Jerusalem, and because the Christian people understood the significance of Jerusalem and the significance of Israel in that area. So for those of us who, are educated and understand, and look, we can talk about Palestine and all that crap too. I can prove to everybody via the treaties that Israel was willing to sign off on, and the Arab nation was not. It went all the way up to 13. And I mean, the mere fact that there was a quote unquote peace treaty between Hamas and Israel by the Trump administration is nothing short of a miracle. Never mind the fact that Islam, because Islam is a religion of deceit, they had no intentions. I'm talking about Hamas had no intentions of honoring their end of the bargain. They still haven't.
No, of course
They're
not.
still trying. They're still bombing and attacking members of IDF.
Well, and that's the whole thing. That all that crap comes from Iran.
Oh, it does.
Iran.
And what do we know
Those
about
are all
Iran?
proxies, and if the people that are in charge in Iran weren't in charge, and they had not insane people running the country,
Right.
none of those other proxies would even exist.
No, they wouldn't exist. Because they didn't exist before the Ayatollah.
Right, exactly.
I mean, they didn't exist, and that radicalism didn't exist until Ayatollah Khomeini took over Iran in '76.
That's what that Goldie gal, she talks a lot about that. Life in Iran before the Ayatollah.
Right. And here's the thing. It wasn't just life in Iran. It was life in the Middle East
The whole Middle
in
East.
general.
Yeah.
Mom, you were around when Ayatollah took over. I mean, I was in grade school when that crap happened.
Well,
We were what, 8 or 9, something like that?
Yeah, right around there.
I think I think this is like the third or fourth Ayatollah. I don't think he's the same guy because he was already old then.
No, he's not. But what we're saying, Mom, is the Ayatollah that took over, all that did was establish.
We can thank good old Jimmy Carter for that. Thank you very
We
much.
absolutely can thank Jimmy Carter
Right.
for that. But
Yep.
but here's the thing, Mom. Once that Ayatollah opened the door to the radical Islamism that is dominant in not only Iran, but look, they may be our allies in one level or another, but Saudi Arabia was never this bat nuts crazy about the fundamentalism that they practice in their nation. And it started with the Ayatollah Khomeini. It opened the door to Osama bin Laden. It opened the door to Saddam Hussein. It made that region very unstable.
It started way before them. You forget the Olympics bombing of the Jews in Germany.
Right, but Mom, that was what I'm talking about. Is it became institutionalized with the Ayatollah because,
Yes, and it
because
started.
what happened at the bombing? What happened after the bombing? Israel went and got those people, and they were dealt with immediately. But it wasn't. That was it was isolated until it wasn't.
It wasn't very isolated. Then they took a plane.
But
They,
once
they
again,
were,
those
they
were
were staking planes
Mom. They
and
were.
throwing people off the planes.
Hey, I understand what you're saying, and I'm very familiar with it. What I'm trying to explain is many of these nations were still very Western-based
No.
nations until the Ayatollah took control of Iran. Then it became very much.
It took him a few years, and that's when when so much of this started. And they had the bombing of the.
Beirut.
They ran a truck into
Beirut.
barracks in one of.
It was in Beirut, Mom. It was in Lebanon.
Yeah.
Beirut,
Right.
Lebanon. But that
That
happened
was under Reagan.
That happened under Reagan's watch. And Reagan responded very much in kind. But that happened after the Ayatollah had taken Iran.
Yes. When Ayatollah took Iran, before that, Iran was very Western.
Western driven. Hell,
And
Gaddafi wasn't Gaddafi wasn't the nut job that he was until after the radicalism of Iran happened.
yeah, they radicalized him.
So, it's been an hour and 2 minutes, and we didn't have a
Uh-oh.
single break, and I almost feel bad about that.
Hope you don't get in trouble.
Merry Christmas and all that.
Speaking of Christmas, Merry Christmas, Dennis.
Merry Christmas to you guys.
Mom, I will talk to you when I come by later today about Christmas.
It was the night before Christmas and all through the house.
Something like that. Next
Well,
week,
it's not there yet.
I want to talk about things that we are grateful for. Because I have a laundry list of things that I'm grateful for.
I do
And,
too.
I kind of want to talk about those things because we can talk about our issues all day long. If we don't show some sense of gratitude, then we're no different than the people that we're trying to save, so to speak.
Well, and everything on those lists needs to be all year long, not just around the holidays.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
No, I'm
we
hoping
do
we
tend
at
to
least got
forget
a
that.
few people watching.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to
We
forget
didn't have
that.
very many today, but that's okay. You know what? It's the holidays. People are distracted. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, which reminds me, be careful driving out there.
yeah, hey, man, I'm going to guess what I'm doing today. Speaking of going back out,
What?
I got to go to a couple of thrift stores. It depends on how quickly I find it. I am looking for a movie for my wife so that my wife can take that movie to my mother-in-law and they can have some moments of fun. It's called Mouse Hunt. You remember
Oh.
it?
Yes. Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. So that's what I get to go try to do is try to find this damn movie on DVD.
Oh, my goodness.
Like,
Good luck.
I'm going to need it.
Yes, you are.
You know, Gene likes all of the Western movies too.
Oh, I know.
The old Western movies.
She watched Home
Oh,
Alone
man.
and Home Alone 2 with Carrie this week. So, and just had a very good time laughing and just enjoying some moments. So, all right, I'm going to jump off. God bless you all. God bless the United States of America. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, Dennis.
You too. Thank you.
Don't be afraid to say Merry Christmas. It's a good thing to say.
Never have been, never will.
All right, Mom, I'll see you in a few hours.
Okay.
Godspeed, people.
Yep. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Have a
Christmas.
good day.